I think we all want to feel better, right? In some way, shape, or form. And we're all looking for the missing piece, right? Like, what's the secret? What is the thing that I am attracting into my life that maybe is not allowing me to reach my dreams? Or we find ourselves saying, am I blocking myself? Do I need to be doing more? When we try to do less, we feel bad or shame, etc. And I interviewed this week on the podcast Dacia. Dacia is a client of mine. She's been in Sex, Love, and Money. She's come into the Energetic Entrepreneur. And what I love about Dacia is she's running 2 businesses. She's got 2 boys, both who have autism, by the way. And she tells the story of how life sort of came to a screeching halt before before it was too late. And she shares with us exactly the steps that she took to lose weight, feel more confident, feel better about herself, show up as the parent that she wants to be to not only herself, but also her kids. And I think you're going to get a lot out of this episode with Dacia. If you feel inspired to talk to Dacia, maybe work with her, or hit her up in an Instagram DM, I'm going to put all of her details below in the show notes. And I feel like too, you're going to get a lot of information about the ebbs and the flows that happen in your own life and some of the tools and techniques you can use to feel better in those moments. Here we go. Okay, I'm super excited to have Dacia here. She is the Homedale Hippie on Instagram. And I wanted to share with you something that is really, really encouraging. If you are in a phase in your life where you're like, hey, I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed. I'm feeling really stressed. I don't know, I feel like why I got into this is I just kept going around in circles sometimes. I get this text message from Kayla that Dacia had sent us in our Sex, Love, and Money group. And so Dacia's on the podcast today, but Dacia, I'm going to start by reading this, okay?
Okay.
Dacia says, just a little something, something to say how grateful I am for this group. She's referring to Sex, Love, and Money. Since joining this group, I've noticed some amazing changes, and here are the 4 she lists. You ready? Number 1, I have my sex drive back because I am less stressed. I literally haven't wanted sex in over 6 months. This was a huge strain on my relationship. 2, I have changed my approach to talking to my boyfriend, and we have a much better understanding, communication, and the whole touching men thing works when talking to them. I'll explain what that is in a second because I literally used that on a coaching call today. Okay, she goes on to say, it also helps me feel more relaxed and less angry because one of my love languages is physical touch. Number 3, I am worrying less about how fast I need to get business stuff done and focusing more on loving my work. Oddly enough, it's bringing in more money because I'm more relaxed and less go, go, go. It's also helped me to have more time with my family. And 4, I've been feeling less shame, guilt, and worry in being vulnerable or just being my authentic self, which in turn is helping me with sex, love, and money. Thank you, Kayla Licari and Katie Grimes. Y'all are amazing. I mean, holy fucking shit, Dacia. And the crazy thing is when did you join the group?
Oh, girl, it's only been a few months.
I think it's only been 2. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, I think you came in
Yeah.
maybe, okay, so we're recording this in May 21st, I think it is right now. So
Yeah,
you
it's only been
came
like
in,
2 months. This will
yeah,
be the 3rd month, I think. Yeah.
because I think you made your payment in February and then March we started. That's
Mm-hmm.
insane. And I'm totally self-promoting right now. Like, that's fucking insane that that's only happened in 2 months in my group. I'm so pleased.
Well, I knew that, you guys were there to help me. And so I decided that I needed to get vulnerable.
Hmm.
And so that's what I've been working on doing more, with the group. And it really helps.
I totally agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of women who have come into the group who have shared privately that trusting other people or trusting women has been hard for them in the past based on things that they've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough and funny enough, Kayla and I have also had similar experiences. So we really hold that close to be like, no, we know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, there is something really vulnerable about saying, I don't have a sex drive, or I'm
Yeah.
feeling pretty stressed about my business and I'm supposed to look like I have my shit together and making money in my business so other people will work with me, but that's not happening right now. Like there's honesty and relatability in that. And I
Yeah.
feel like for you, one of the questions that I had is like, how quickly do you feel like you were able to be open and honest and vulnerable within the group? And then I want to actually then curtail that into, and then as it relates to like some other aspects of life,
Mm-hmm. So
for you to be yourself.
I think like after the first group call, I might have like I know I liked a bunch of stuff in the group and I
Mm,
did some comments, but I didn't really get like vulnerable and like be open until you guys had Alyssa on there to do the
yeah.
somatic
Breath work.
breath work. And I was just like, it just like totally opened me up. And I was like, you know what? I am safe in this group.
Mm,
And I knew I was safe in the group to begin with, but being able to like just type in something in the group was hard before that.
you know,
Um, yeah.
knowing you for as long as I have, because I met you in another group that I had coached in that you were getting
Hmm.
support in, I feel like I remember why you stuck out to me so much was because of how active you were in that group.
Hmm.
And so I remember thinking to myself, I'm excited for the day where Dacia gets to be herself here because I've seen the other
Yeah.
comments in the group and you're so vulnerable. Like you will
Hmm.
spill the tea on what's going on in your life and your emotions, but also I love that you share so much about the successes.
Hmm.
And as your coach, I was like, all I can do is keep showing up for her in that way. I'm not going to push her force. I'm not going to call it out because,
Yeah.
like, I wanted you to feel safe that you could just be you. And I think what it's done is it's helped other people maybe not show up and comment, but they have then been able to um, write in the group chat, like when we're in the midst of coaching. I've seen a lot of
Hmm.
really vulnerable posts there. Then in the actual like Instagram group chat, I'm seeing like people are just like really digging in deeper. Did you
Hmm.
notice that the other day in the energetic
Yeah.
entrepreneur, where like uh somebody said something about their mom being sick and then the other person then was like, so you said the word mom and it reminded me of that my mom isn't showing up for me or my kids the way I want, and just
Hmm.
like open the floodgates.
Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful thing to see when one person goes first,
Yeah.
the ripple effect. And so I appreciate you being the one that went first because you
Mm.
made it safe for everybody else to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of have done that my whole life because everybody always pauses and I'm like, well, I could go first and then I won't feel so nervous anymore.
Mhm.
And, maybe it'll help other people feel like they can talk.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of been doing that my whole life, honestly.
Same. I tended to be the one in elementary school. I just raised my hand because I'm like, if
Yeah.
I just sit here, everybody else is gonna go crazy. It just
Right.
makes
Yeah.
We talked about you getting coaching before. So for some, they're going to come into energetic entrepreneur or sex, love, and money, and this will be the first time that they've ever received coaching. But for you, you're a veteran at this point. You've had coaching. What do you
Mhm.
feel like was how is the support different? Not necessarily with the coaches you've had, and calling them out, just more so like what are the things that Kayla and I have been able to give to you or that you've received that you feel like has just been really supportive and worth noting if anybody's wanting to
Mhm.
come do their own coaching, whether it's with me and Kayla or it's somewhere else? Like, what does
Yeah.
that kind of support look like for you?
So I think the thing that has helped me the most is that there's a lot of feminine energy. And it's like I think that's really helpful when you can find a group of women who really, really can support each other. And that's the thing that has stood out the most and helped me the most, uh,
Mm-hmm.
beside other groups I've been in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was in a health and fitness group a long time ago, and it was full of a lot of women. but it always felt very judgy. This one feels like there is zero judgment there. Like
Zero.
zero. Like I don't feel any judgment whatsoever. Everybody seems really, really supportive, and they're like, everybody's all doing their own different thing. And that's what I think makes it so unique and cool is
Mm.
we're we're all doing our own thing, but we come together and we can be supportive. So,
Yeah, I love that you said that because you're reminding me of a couple of things. Number one, I think it has to do why there's safety and no judgment in the group are two reasons in my opinion. Number one is the people, right?
mhm,
I handpicked these people and said, I
yeah,
would like you to come into this group for 4 weeks. And you have a business, you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, trying to hit your goals. Like I know that feeling. I've been there. Sometimes I'm still in it. So come into this group because I knew who they were, right? I knew who you were. So
mhm,
that's one aspect of it. But then the other aspect, which you just made me remember, is the boundaries that I set in the group in that very first message. I actually use the words, we will not judge, shame, or criticize one another in this group.
right.
And when it's a principle, those values of like we'll show up for each other when we can, and if we can't, we let each other know. We won't judge, shame, or criticize one another. Um, and we'll keep what we say between us. I feel like those three values are values that I didn't have when I was younger.
Mhm,
My family gossiped. There was a lot of dysfunction. So coming into a group and creating a group, I was like, absolutely no fucking way will I stand for anything less.
right.
Um, and it's been great because I've only had one group where behind the scenes somebody texted me and was like, just so you're aware, this one person is criticizing. And truth be told, she has not been allowed back into a group as a result of it.
Mhm,
It's just really interesting to me because it creates a lot of safety for someone to really be themselves and to get what they want out of it. Something
mhm,
else that you mentioned too that I thought was really important is I love how you were like, we go off and we do our own things and then we come back together. And I think
mhm,
that was one of the questions that I received about the energetic entrepreneur when I sent that invite out, is the person was like, hey, I don't have a lot of time because I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed. Like, I don't necessarily want to be commenting on other people's stuff. Like, I just want one on one attention. And I'm like, that's totally fine. And I actually love that aspect of the group that there's both. Like, I do see
yeah,
some people chiming in on each other or liking each other's posts, but it's really like, okay, Dacia said this, so I'm going to respond to Dacia. And we don't need other people chiming in on it unless they want to. But like, I haven't seen that
exactly.
happen really, anybody doing that.
Yeah, I haven't
So
seen that either.
well, and I think you bring up another point too around the feminine energy is I think many of us relate to the fact of the go, 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 the do, do, do. You said this in your
Mhm,
text message that I started with. That's masculine, right? We need
yeah,
masculine to be able to get shit done. But in the same breath, I work with a lot of women who, like me, have been hyper independent. And,
mhm,
for you, you're a mom, you have two kids, you have two businesses, like there's a multiple things going on. And it's
yeah,
like, if you're not careful, like as much as a mom is a quote unquote feminine characteristic, it's not. It's very masculine. It is like,
mhm,
boys, I need you dressed. I need you doing this. I need you doing that,
yeah,
right? And there's a
mhm,
lot of moms in the group. So it's like, I love that you brought up the feminine energy because it is really being like, okay, where can you delegate? Where can you ask for help?
right.
Where is that uncomfortable to ask for help? Can we talk about that? Like those
Mhm,
types of qualities and
yeah.
characteristics. What do you feel like for you has been something that jumps out that's been really eye-opening and helpful? I know you're in both groups. You're in the energetic entrepreneur and then you're also
Mhm.
in sex, love, and money. Yeah, something that jumps out that was helpful and
So,
eye-opening.
just how open and honest both you and Kayla are when you respond, you know?
Hmm.
I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
you guys are just like, this is what I think will help you. Or can I point something out?
Mm,
And it's it's so helpful because there are some of those things that have I've had pointed out to me. I didn't notice that.
mm,
And, I think it's just, I'm constantly moving and going. And so I don't notice all those things all the time. And so having another perspective from like someone else say, this is what I see,
mm.
is really helpful. And I think that's why I love coaching because
Same.
I'm not going to see all these things, you know?
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? My overthinker is like, we'll just think about all these other things. And like to have
Hmm.
somebody quote unquote interrupt that thought process is really powerful because that's why I became a coach. I was being coached and I was able to see like, oh, I have a blind spot there. Like I have
Hmm.
a pattern of doing the same thing again and again and again, expecting different results. But if I actually listened to my intuition before I did it, that thing was very present right at the beginning. And
Right.
so I think you bring up a couple examples that come to mind for would be like someone in group had broken her ankle. Remember this?
Hmm.
And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm not taking any action in my coaching business. I'm getting that off the ground." And I'm just like, I'm gonna put words in her mouth. I think she was just sort of fed up, frustrated, annoyed, right? And
Hmm.
my reflection back to her was, how cool that you get to rest and be creative,
Right.
right? Like you could be on the couch and be like, okay, I can't necessarily coach people right now because I don't feel up to it, but I can brainstorm the group name or the name of the business or, kind of get into a creative headspace.
Yeah.
And I remember her reflecting back and being like, oh my God, I hadn't even thought of that. Like,
Hmm.
just kind of.
Yeah, because we're so much in our heads that sometimes we don't think about those things. Yeah.
No, and I know that's a big part of your journey and how you started your business is, so I know there's twofold, like we talked about. One is the coaching and the newsletter, which is all
Hmm.
about sort of, with coaching, it's self-love and sort of this joyful living, which I want to dive into in a second. And
Hmm.
then the newsletter is really like home, health, community. I love that you're supporting small businesses in the sense that not only are you talking about small businesses, but you're even allowing the small business to write in the article and
Hmm.
talk about things that matter to them as it relates to home health community, things like that.
Yeah.
Then you have your online shop, which is around stocking stuffers and small gifts around the holidays.
Hmm.
So for you, how does this concept of self-love and joyful living, like where does that come from? Like what's the before and then what's the after? Because I know I mean, same with me, I coach on the shit I know because I've been through it.
Hmm.
So my question is like, where did that come from in terms of your journey back in the day, and then what's different now, and then how do you apply that shit to like you're a mom of two, you are a partner, you have
Hmm.
a partnership, you have all these other things going on.
Yeah. So, it all kind of, well, before it looked like I didn't love myself.
Mm,
Um, I totally, there was no self-care going on. I
mm,
was sick all the time. It got to a point where I was living with my mom and she was actually doing the majority of taking care of my kids because I was so sick. And um, then if you fast
mm.
forward, probably like 2 years, I had learned how to love myself. And it was the silliest little trick, but it was just so, and I'm gonna get emotional here because that was like one of the huge catalysts that changed my life. And I realized there's a lot of people out there that probably don't really truly love themselves. And then the joy aspect came from one time I got on a coaching call with a coach and I was talking about something that happened. And he's like, dude, we got to figure out how to harness this joy. And that line stuck with me for years and years and years. And I was like, oh, how do I do that? So the the self-care and love and joyful living kind of became this thing that I ingrained into my life.
Mm.
And I feel so much better when I do things that are more joyful living and really do like self-care that helps myself. So, yeah.
Can you give me an example of something that's happened recently in terms of self-love and joyful living related to your kids.
Okay, let's see here. Um, so our favorite thing to do is to go to our local ice cream shop. And it's a small business, and I absolutely love it, and how like she came about starting it and everything. But our favorite thing to do is to go down there, and they have an ice cream subscription that they both pick up their little cards, and they get to like pick out whatever from it,
Hmm.
and then we'll sit there for a little bit and talk. And there's a chessboard there, so Logan and I will play chess, and Jacob will help either one of us when he thinks we're not doing it right. But yeah, no, that's probably one of my favorite things that we do together. Yeah.
What about in terms of time with your boyfriend, joyful living and self-love?
We love to go for drives and just
Mm,
go out and like end up somewhere. Like we'll end up at a restaurant for dinner and we didn't even plan it. That's probably our favorite thing to do together, is to just go out and not have a plan.
you're reminding me that one of the things you wrote was putting your hand on him. You want to give the listeners a context for what you had learned? Because I remember Kayla had said it in
Right.
group. And another client, I just gave her the same advice. I said, remember that
Uh-huh.
hand holder?
Yeah,
Or
so
wherever.
I have always had a really hard time talking to him. And
Hmm.
I didn't realize, and I didn't put that two and two together, that men are more physical touch.
Hmm.
Um, and I was like, when Kayla said, she would put her hand on her husband when they'd be talking or start a discussion, I was like, wait a second, I'll bet that'll really help. And I didn't realize that it was going to help both of us, because my main love language is physical touch.
Same.
And so before I even started the conversation, I was like, Jerry, can I have a hug? And so he he was up in his recliner, and he put himself closer to the edge of his seat, and we just had this huge hug. And all of a sudden I felt calmer. I didn't feel like I was going to get angry at him.
Hmm.
Um, and I started talking while we were hugging, and that conversation was probably one of the best conversations we've had.
Wow. And you were coming to him, you don't have to give details, but you were coming to him to share something that felt really vulnerable or that you wanted
Right.
to
Yeah.
either change in the relationship or like get him to do more so that you could be more in your feminine, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a powerful tool because I feel like it puts both people at ease. I think the same could be said for us, right? If they were to, if say you're in a male to female relationship and Jerry were to come to you and say, can I have a hug, or like goes to touch you and be like, okay, babe, like I feel like for me, that just sets the tone where I'm immediately calm and relaxed as well. And yeah,
Right.
you reminded me that like two of the really most, they say in coaching or in any business that you do, that when you're marketing, you're not marketing the how, right? You're not
Mhm.
marketing the steps that you take in order to get to where you want to go. You market to the problem or you market to the goal, right? So for us, when we were marketing the energetic entrepreneur, we were like, hey, this is a 4-week program that we want you to come into if you're a business owner who's overwhelmed and you're trying to hit your goals and you're doing fucking everything you can to do it, but it's just not working. The how ended up being that was the like what and why, right? But then the
Yeah.
how was like, okay, you could look at what conversations you're not having in your relationship and be able to do X, Y, and Z, aka hug them, touch them,
hmm
be able to take some things off your to-do list, whatever it may be, and really calm the nervous system. And I feel like for me, Dacia, the nervous system was not something I knew about. It wasn't something that I necessarily had um, I hadn't necessarily learned about, and it was just because nobody was really talking about how positive it would impact my life. Most
Yeah.
people were going to like I am statements or visualization or manifestations, and the reality is like that's all well and fine, but I actually needed to physically do things like get sunlight in my eyes and go out at night to pool for a walk before bed. I needed time alone. I needed to do these things first before I then allowed my manifestations, visualizations, and I am statements to take over. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think you bring up a couple really great points, which is like, these are some really crucial things that we asked you at the beginning of the group. Like, what is your morning routine? What is your evening routine? And I remember one of the things you had said was, I'm not spending any time alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Kayla came to me and she's like, we need to get Dacia alone. That was her laugh. And
Yeah.
I know, we're gonna carve out time for her. We're gonna figure that
Yeah.
out. It wasn't meaning us alone with you. We meant
Yeah.
like we've got to give her even 15 minutes. And I remember you implemented it like right away, that suggestion that we gave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the joy that, let's talk about joyful living. Like the joy that I heard in your message, and you didn't even voice memo, you texted. And I remember being like, fuck, this is working. Like
Yeah.
subtle, small changes that actually give you more energy, more time back, and help you to feel more connected to yourself and, like in this case, your boyfriend and your kids and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, couple last questions for you. So, speaking of like some of these changes that you've already made, any other changes that were really easy for you to implement that you had been learning in these groups that you think maybe somebody else should know about and maybe they can try?
Um, I think like the personal recommendations,
Hmm.
because I know in the energetic entrepreneurs, there are a lot of individual personal recommendations. I think those, like when you laid it out in that list,
Hmm.
really helped me to see, oh, those are some things I need to work on. And then when you pointed it out, and just pick one of them, just pick one and do one,
One.
I was like, I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel like I had to like be perfect about it. And that's why it was so easy for me to implement just one thing first. And I was like, okay, well, I think the most important thing that Katie and Kayla are getting at is that I need to have 15 minutes minimum of alone time that equals enjoyment.
Hmm.
And that's why I implemented that one first, because I was
Hmm.
like, okay, well, if they think that that one is really going to help me the most, that's what I'm going to do. And holy shit, it really helped me the most. I was like,
I'm
everything just started to flow after that point. I was like, oh my gosh,
I
geez,
feel like
Keisha.
it's almost like you like unkinked the hose, like the water
Right.
hose. Like
Yeah.
the hose had water in it and
Yeah.
it was really kinked, aka your nervous system was really dysregulated.
Hmm.
He like gave you that one suggestion. You're reminding me too of when I created this. I said to myself like I want to get business owners together, same reason I just already explained. But I was like I want it to be so personalized because you get into these groups sometimes and there's just all this broad knowledge that you're like, sure, I could do that, but then the laundry list is so long. And that's why we record a video, and you're going to get one at the end too. I know I told you that, but like it's a video at the beginning that's like, hey, you filled out this questionnaire. Here are the here's where you are, here's where you're saying you need to be, here's the one thing you could start with that will make a big difference to quote unquote unkink the hose. And I love how you said like
Hmm.
everything flowed from there because that's the point is if you unkink the hose you have more energy.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
regulate your nervous system with the tools we're giving you, you literally are able to let the energy flow through and you're like something that would have bogged you down before doesn't bog you down anymore because you're like, wow, I
Hmm.
don't even need a nap, I can keep going.
Yep.
So that's really helpful. And then the last two questions I had, one is when I know you're in two programs now with us, the like I said, both of the Sex, Love, and Money and the Energetic Entrepreneur. What do you feel like for you draws you to continue to work with us? What initially drew you? Like this is why I want to come work with them, and then what makes you continue to stay?
So both you and Kayla, I feel very similar about this. Your energy is just, it feels very similar to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. And so that's kind of what drew me to work with you guys, as well as I love your content. Both of you. I love your content. It's just, it's on point. it's authentic, it's not perfect,
Mm,
you know, and that's where my brain goes, oh my gosh, they're showing up and they're not feeling like they have to be like this perfect self.
yes.
And to me, that's super important, you
It's
know,
literally
because
one of
I'm
the
a recovering perfectionist. So
same girl, same.
yeah,
It's literally
so
what I said to you before I recorded. I was like, we're gonna do this podcast imperfectly. Let's just
mhm,
like, if there's gaps, there's ahs, like just let's roll with it. So thank
right.
you for that. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that. I did cut you off because I got excited because I was like, I'm also a recovering
Yeah.
perfectionist.
No, that's okay.
Were you gonna
That
say
that was
something
pretty
else?
much it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question as it relates to your business. So talk to us a little bit in your point of view as to what you're really excited about now that you're able to have more energy. You're, not feeling as some of the symptoms like you said at the beginning. I have my sex drive back. I have more
Mhm.
energy. I'm feeling like I'm trusting more and more money is coming in. What are you most excited about in your business and the things that are coming up? And then also just generally in the other aspects of life. What are you most excited about?
So when it comes to my business, I'm excited about just creating, like being able to do all these steps that I was so worried and stressed about doing before because I thought I needed to be absolutely perfect and have the perfect everything for it. Um, and so yeah, that's what that is with my business is I'm just like, hey, I feel like I can actually do this now. Um, and create the online shop and have my boys help with that and get the newsletter going by the beginning of July and start working on the coaching group that I want to make.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I really feel like business wise, that's what I'm really excited about. It's just being able to create without feeling super stressed and worried.
I love that. And I think something that's really important to note, and I know you didn't say this, but I want to highlight it, and you've given me permission to highlight it. So, um, is that your boys are autistic. And
Yes.
so a big part of what you do is, like you said, with the online shop, with the stocking stuffers and small gifts around Christmas time and the holidays, is being able to teach them about money and to teach them how to have it and save it and to work and
Mm-hmm.
also be able to, donate to, other companies that focus on autism.
Yeah.
And the advocacy work that you do around that. And I think that's really powerful. So, and then I think on top of that, like you had mentioned, is the newsletter. I just love that your heart is coming from a place of like, I've been there, I'm still in it. Some things I've done, but like I'm willing to share with you and bring you along the journey. And I think what I love about the newsletter is the fact that you're not only highlighting small business owners and giving them a platform to have exposure, but you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it in multiple different ways. Like you're
Yeah.
literally saying, write this article about the thing that you love, and then also promote your business while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, like you said, the coaching too is like from a place of self love and joyful living. I think we're all trying to do life so perfectly and it's fucking exhausting. I mean, I had a weekend, I shared this
Yeah.
in Energetic Entrepreneur where I was completely overthinking. And I look over at my friend's wall and she's got that feelings wheel that I just showed you. It was like
Mm-hmm.
the things you can control and the things you can't. And I was like, sister, you need to snap a picture of that for me. She's like, we call that the calm corner. I was like, I need to go stand in the calm corner because
I love that.
I'm feeling my feels. And I just think too that you keep it really real
Mhm.
in your coaching to say, hey, everything's not going to be sunshine and rainbows, but there are ways to love yourself as you are moving through the ups and downs of life. And then the last question, what are you most excited and looking forward to with it when it comes to your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your boyfriend, your kids, your family?
Um, I'm excited to just show up as myself imperfectly and just, you know, roll with it, no matter what it's going to look like, because life is messy. And if you just wait for everything to be perfect, you're going to be missing out on a lot. Yeah.
Missing out on a lot.
Yeah.
Dacia, thanks for your honesty and also thanks for just being so vulnerable and
Yeah.
reminding all of us that self-love does take time,
Mm-hmm.
and reducing the perfectionism and recovering from that takes time. And I
Yeah.
love that your answer was like, I'm just gonna show up and do things imperfectly.
Yeah.
Reminder for all of us. So, all right, you guys, check out the show notes if you want to head on over to Homedale Hippie on Instagram, as well as check out Dacia's multiple businesses that she has. And I really encourage you that as you're listening to this episode, if something resonated or related to you, that number one, you share this. You share it with a friend, you share it with a family member who just needs to hear this message, or you hit us up on Instagram and give us a little love. We do this because it literally brings us joy to be able to share our stories with other people, because we want to make you feel less alone in the journey that you have trying to do this life perfectly imperfect.
Exactly.
All right, everybody, in health and happiness. We'll see you in the next episode.